Do you know how to love yourself? This is Robert Manny, host of Guys Radio, and we're going to tackle that subject on the show this week. We've got two guests. We've got Blake D. Bauer. He's written this book, You Were Not Born to Suffer. We've also got Dr. Gary Salyer. We're going to talk about his book, Safe to Love Again. All on Guys Radio at 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio here in Southern California, 102.3, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. The podcast on YouTube dropped worldwide on Thursday. Guys Radio, thanks for your support and have a happy Thanksgiving. Guest, I think he's a real guy's guy, and I think we're on kind of the same wavelength in terms of our perspective, some of our experiences, and our desire to help people. And his name is Blake D. Bauer. He's an international best-selling author. He's got a book called You Were Not Born to Suffer, which I think is very appropriately titled for nowadays, because a lot of times in today's times we have trouble accepting and loving ourselves, and it all begins from there. He's also a mental, emotional, and physical health expert, modern meditation and Qigong master, self-care, self-love, self-healing, self-mastery kind of coach, counsels and coaches for deep healing, emotional intelligence, effective communication, high performance, and confidence. His book, You Were Not Born to Suffer, is an international bestseller, and he helps people around the world over and over again, and he's just really a terrific guy. And the book is about effective mental and emotional health support, something we need right now. Blake Bauer, welcome to Guys Radio.
Hi, Robert. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So let's start right at the beginning. I think and I read all the questions that are sent to me, and I developed my own. So let's just have a conversation. So why do you believe that people choose or feel the need to suffer? And do people realize that they are suffering, or is this just kind of the modern state of mankind?
I think, everybody lives across a spectrum, Robert. And, for me, the philosophy behind my work has become that most of us just never learned how to love and care for ourselves as children. And so we have a very self-destructive relationship to ourselves with our thoughts, how we relate to our emotions and our needs, and then to our body. And then that self-destructive relationship to ourselves translates into toxic relationships with other people and with work and with substances or food, etc. And I think just most of us really learned how to hurt ourselves and how to allow ourselves to get hurt over and over and over again. And we're stuck in that habitual cycle. And sometimes we just don't know how to break free. And then there's a lot of theories out there that are really beautiful theories, but they don't necessarily translate into a no BS practical, how do I do this in my life right now and break the cycle?
Mm-hmm. Do you think, like I'm a boomer, I'm a little older than you, and when I grew up, some kids had issues and other kids didn't, and it was pretty simple. We didn't have a computer, we didn't have a cell phone. At the beginning there was black and white TV. I'd go outside and play with a ball and ride my bike, and that was it. I personally, and everybody's experience is different, I didn't have many issues. I grew up a pretty happy kid, loving family. Yeah, was it dysfunctional? What family isn't in certain ways? But do you think that, what happened with you, and you had a troubled childhood, and a lot more people seem to be having that now, is that part of a cultural shift, a global consciousness, or is this just something that's been around forever that's just starting now to really get to the surface so people really are aware of the issue of lack of self-love and self-worth and the need to address it?
I think it's both. I think it's something that's being passed down from generation to generation. So this toxic relationship to ourselves or a lack of healthy self-love is something our grandparents passed to our parents and our parents passed to us, and a lot of us are passing to our own children. But then I think that over the last 50 years, our country has grown into this developed consumer capitalistic superpower, which has increased the speed at which people live, the desire for more, more materialism, more money, more things, thinking that that's going to make us happy or make us more lovable. So I think the answer is both. I think it's something that was latent in our DNA and in our biology, and we were set up with it from the beginning because it's something we have to heal as human beings for the next step, I think, in our evolution. And then I think it is something that has just been magnified and, become exponential because of these different factors. Just like, social media, for example, and the internet make fear worse because fear spreads quicker. This toxic relationship to ourselves is really magnified. For example, the entire advertising industry, right, is predicated on the fact that you're not enough as you are, and you need this to be beautiful, you need this to be attractive, you need this to be loved. And a lot of us are trapped in that very toxic belief system.
hmm From your personal experience, now you had issues with the self-worth and self-love when you were a kid. So tell us about quickly what happened there, and then what was your epiphany to say, I have to get to the real truth and turn this thing around?
Well, that is a very loaded question, Robert, and you'll have to cut me off if I ramble too much. But, I just never learned how to love myself as a child, and practically speaking, I didn't know how to express my emotions in a healthy way. I didn't know how to honor my needs and follow my heart. I didn't know how to act in integrity. I learned to basically shove my truth to survive and to people please. And that led me to self-destructive behaviors, particularly abusing drugs and alcohol, and then destroying my life and everything I cared about and hurting the people around me. And it was at the age of 18 after I got a very bad DUI with drugs in my car and lots of drugs in my system, and was kicked off the varsity football team as a captain of the varsity football team with my two best friends. And we were all supposed to go play college football. And I ruined all those opportunities and then spiraled into a suicidal depression. And that was the beginning of my healing journey. And obviously at the time it was horrible, but it was the biggest blessing because that's how I really got to reconnect with my true self, develop this emotional intelligence, master my mind through meditation, begin healing, finding purpose, and then eventually sharing that with other people.
Okay, let me ask you this. So, that is the description of kind of what happened. What is it about that you may feel comfortable speaking freely about? What was it about was it your family, your home life, your relationship to your parents or your siblings or whatever that gave you these feelings of discomfort, if you will?
Yeah, it was everything. I had two parents that struggled emotionally and then had a toxic relationships that ended in a very painful divorce. Then I didn't have my dad in my life for a while, and my dad had drug addiction problems. And I
Okay.
had a brother who was a drug addict who passed away from heroin.
hmm
I had an uncle who was a drug addict who passed away from Quaaludes, if you remember those.
Yeah.
And, so I grew up around just a lot of dysfunction and pain. And then for me because I think my home life was a bit unstable, I really wanted to fit in with my friends and be accepted. And I really wanted a woman to love me. And I think I learned to basically hurt myself to be accepted and loved by other people. And it became a very deep pattern for me where I really hurt myself for years.
Okay. So when you had your epiphany, kind of when you bottomed out, um, what flipped the switch on that, and then what did you do, and how did you start on your path to more of a self-realization and self-worth and self-love? And the reason I'm asking these questions is because there's so many listeners out there can relate to your story, and I just want to put it into context so they can think about their lives and maybe, hey, did I miss this opportunity? What can I do now? So I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
100%. So at 18, when I hit that rock bottom, I went from being very arrogant and thinking I was invincible to being tortured psychologically and emotionally and waking up every day just tortured by my thoughts and my emotions. And I had ruined everything that I cared about, everything that was my ego or my identity at that age. And I noticed that I was following in the footsteps of the adults in my family who had ruined their own lives and their own families and their own careers. And I had a lot of pride, and maybe it was ego pride, but I think I also had a lot of self-respect. And I thought to myself, I am actually heading down the same path that they were. And I don't want to end up like that. I think there's more for me in this life, that I want a better life and I want to respect the man and the person that I am. So that gave me the strength. It was the pain and the shame in my community, that suffering, that gave me the strength to stop drinking and stop getting high and put my healing as the top priority. And so I began with things like yoga and then eventually meditation. And I started meditating every morning. And I'd say meditation more than anything saved my life, learning to train my mind. And I started eating healthier because my nutrition definitely affected my mental and emotional state. And I started taking lots of vitamins. And so, in those little ways, I started to strengthen my physical body and strengthen my health. And then that strengthened my mental and emotional health. And then this is a very short version, but I ended up going to 5 different universities studying psychology, alternative medicine, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, Western herbal medicine, all the sciences. I studied with spiritual masters from around the world in these spiritual practices like meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, all trying to feel better, feel healthier mentally, emotionally, and physically. And then I just wanted to share it with other people because I find that a lot of books are a little bit too complicated. It's all theory, but it's not that no BS. How do I do this and be in the world in a healthy way, with integrity, with values, with purpose, and not be so caught up in the rat race or the illusion of what success and happiness is.
Got it. Okay. Blake D. Bauer, my special guest on Guys Radio, and based on his last statement, I agree. And his book is You Are Not Born to Suffer. Overcome fear, insecurity, and depression. Love yourself back to happiness, confidence, and peace. And it's such a relevant issue because so many of us right now are going through that, and the whole COVID thing dials that up a couple of notches. But a question is, spirituality, what aspect of that, if any, has woven its way along your path?
Well, so spirituality has been 100% a big part of my path because as a young man, I didn't know why I came to the planet. I didn't believe in God. I didn't understand my connection to life and the universe. And then that not knowing and questioning evolved into a perspective where, we're all part of this universe. We're made up of atoms and energy, and we're all connected to the same energy field. And I think, there's a lot of spiritual practices like meditation, like yoga, and they all have these philosophies and these theories. But the most important thing that really comes out of it is that you grow into a healthy, loving, and kind person. And that really is all that matters. It doesn't matter if you think you're enlightened, if you're not a nice person to everybody, or you think you're enlightened and you come from this egotistical, higher, you think you're better than other people. Because, right, the spiritual ego is the worst kind of ego.
Right.
So I think it all manifests in who and how you are, which is if you're kind, loving, understanding, accepting, tolerant, patient. Those are the virtues that true spirituality expresses itself as, not just being a yogi or a meditation master right. or going to India.
Okay. Did you find, Blake, that when you went on this path with the meditation, the Qigong, the Tai Chi, yoga, that was part of eliminating obstacles and eliminating the alcohol and the drugs and et cetera, that it's all about making a clear connection to spirit, if you will, and spiritual consciousness, and moving that stuff, the bad stuff, out of the way, and using the other exercises, if you will, to clarify and heighten that path to spirit. Is that really what happened with you, that you kind of cleared things out and had more direct connection with who you are in the universal consciousness?
100%. That's exactly what happened. And as someone who abused all kinds of drugs for years, I now say to people that the states of consciousness and the highs that you can experience through spiritual practice far exceed what you can get from a substance, and they're sustainable and they have no side effects. So yes, 100% that was the case. And then, as that journey unfolds, you realize that you're not separate from spirit, from the universe, or from God, if you believe in some kind of God, and that it's inside you and it is you. And the more you clear out the old pain and the toxins inside of you, you become more and more aware of that. And then the last thing that pops into my head, Robert, is, the more and more you do these things that make you feel well naturally, like eat healthy, drink a lot of water, exercise, get into these spiritual practices, follow your heart, talk about your feelings, your energy and your vibration gets stronger and healthier, and you feel really good. And when you feel really good, you don't want to eat or ingest anything that's toxic and brings your energy or your vibe down, and you don't want to be around people who are toxic or that bring your energy down, and it becomes a very natural, organic, instinctual process.
Very well stated. And I love the common sense approach. And, people throw words like spirituality around, and it's really about, creating a channel between consciousness and yourself. And it doesn't have to be, all up in the clouds type of thing. It's very real because most people don't understand. But I think when they start doing the work and the practices that you profess, is that the work and the changes are done inside, because all the answers are really there. Because if there is a divine spark of God, if you will, within everybody, then we're all God in a way, and then it's a matter of dialing up that connection. Let me ask
100%.
let me ask you this, Blake. Just for practicality purposes, I understand yoga and Tai Chi is a different subject, and Qigong, but meditation is a very, I think, nice first step for a lot of people. However, with all the monkey chatter and all of the, how people consume media now, it used to be, a 30-second commercial, and even that was kind of getting in the way. Now you go on Facebook or whatever, and it's scrolling these stories. It's like 5 seconds. It's like scroll, 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 scroll. People wake up. The phone is next to their bed. Scroll, scroll, scroll. They go to sleep. The phone is next to their bed. Scroll, scroll, scroll. I myself of the habit I put my phone away, and when I wake up in the morning, I spend between 5 and 15 minutes, and I've extended the time in a meditation, a zero balancing meditation. And after that, I'd either do some tapping or do some dowsing or whatever. But what it does for me is it kind of sets a really good tone for the day, where I'm not all Virgosic thoughts and monkey chatter and all over the place. But so many people have trouble getting started with meditating because they can't slow their mind down. Could you give some tips to help people kind of how can they get started? Because it's a very basic practice, and it's something anybody can do, and it's really, really helpful.
Absolutely. Robert, I think you gave some of the best advice and hit the nail on the head, because our thoughts in the morning really create our day. And
Mm-hmm.
so doing what I encourage is 10 minutes of meditation first thing in the morning, just like you said. Don't look at your phone. You go to the bathroom, maybe get some water, but don't do anything else. Don't have your coffee. Don't get into reading anything. And the technique that I focus on and teach after studying many, many techniques comes back to the essence of what the Buddha taught, which is why Buddhism has been so popular around the world and is the foundation of mindfulness, which is basically you close your eyes and you breathe through your nose and you feel your body and you focus on your breathing. And when your mind is wandering and you're thinking or you're talking to yourself, you say the word thinking just to yourself. And when you say the word thinking, it's your cue to bring your attention back to your breathing and back to your body. And every time you choose to bring your attention back to your breathing and back to your body, you're choosing to take your power back from those toxic thoughts or that out of control monkey mind. And you're building your capacity, you're building that muscle to choose and guide healthier thoughts, to choose and guide your attention where you put attention and your focus every day, so you're not the victim of wherever your subconscious wants to run to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. Great answer. Thank you, Blake, for that. So, adding on to that, obviously, yoga is a breathing and a physical practice. Most people are not that familiar with Tai Chi and Qigong and the differences between the two. Could you just give a quick 101 on both of those? Because they're very important, and they work with some type of the kind of infinity eight, and the movements are all choreographed for specific reasons in terms of unlocking and connecting with energy.
Absolutely. So Qigong predates everything. It predates Tai Chi, and it's considered the foundation of Chinese medicine, how these Taoist Qigong masters discovered the flow of energy and blood in the body, years ago, before we had, machines and science, etc. They just explored the body and the flow of energy in nature and without so much distraction. So Qigong is a moving meditation that is in the way I teach it, which is not the way everybody teaches it, but I'm into practicality and results in terms of health and happiness, is it really methodically opens up your capillaries and your energy channels. So anywhere that there is stuck blood, stuck energy, or stuck emotion, it liberates it. Because my view is that disease and depression can be reduced to stuck blood, stuck energy, and stuck emotion in the subconscious, aka our body. And so I have never found a tool that's more effective to unlock stuck blood, stuck emotion, stuck energy, and really get things moving. And it's really, really gentle. And it's founded on that Taoist saying that water wears away rock. You know, we think that things have to be really hard and aggressive to be effective, but there's actually very gentle, subtle, mindful approaches that are really powerful. And that's something I've just really resonated with.
Got it. Okay, just a couple more questions, and great job. And I want to have you come back to the show, and we'll talk about some specific practices. We'll do it at a separate time, but I really like what you're doing, and it's very practical. And this is Guys Radio, so we're trying to do kind of very clear versions of how to help people, and then it's up to them to do the work. So what would be your advice, Blake, for people out there who are listening and say, okay, what's something I can start in with? Maybe they're not ready for meditation even before that. What thoughts, how can they begin to shift their thoughts to more self-love and less self-loathing?
Well, I think I would have, in the spirit of Guy, no BS radio, I would say you got to cut your BS and you got to sit down and take 10 minutes and stop making excuses, because it's really easy to make excuses and then to blame and complain. But at the end of the day, we are creating our life. And so everything that we experience, we are creating and attracting. And that comes back to the very hard lesson of personal responsibility. And if you want to achieve your best and be your best for yourself, for your partner, for your children, for the world, you got to be accountable. So, looking at your thoughts and how you react is really important. Expressing your emotions is number one next to meditation. Is you got to be vulnerable, and being vulnerable and talking about your feelings is not weakness. It's actual real strength. And the men that we had as role models who were stoic and never showed emotions were actually a little scared, angry, and insecure. And that's why they kept their feelings in. And so you got to open up, because it's the only way you're going to feel valued and appreciated as a man. And it's the only way you're going to be happy and not self-destructive.
Fantastic. Okay, Blake D. Bauer, my special guest on Guys Radio. He's a real guys guy, and he's here to help. And I totally support the work he's doing. The name of the book is You Were Not Born to Suffer, Overcome Fear, Insecurity, and Depression, and Love Yourself Back to Happiness, Confidence, and Peace. And it's a great book for guys. So, Blake, tell everybody where they can learn more about you and where they can get your book.
Well, thanks, Robert. I'd say check it out on Audible or iTunes, because I know a lot of guys like to listen in the car or listen while they're, traveling or working out. So it's on Audible. It's my voice, if I haven't bored you already, and it will help you change everything.
Fantastic. Well, listen, great job. As I mentioned, we'll talk separately, but we've got to get you back here. We'll do some deeper dives on some specific practices and some specific issues to help guys out there. All right?
Thank you, Robert. I would love that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Blake D. Bauer.